there we go. I snuck it in, Will. We're live. What's up? All right, ready for the anthem?
Hit me.
Today is going to be a very fun day because we're going to be discussing AI music.
Welcome to the Friday Flow with Jordan and Willette. Let's go. Tech news and all the trends. Tune in now with your friends. From Overflow we bring the heat.
All right, that's one. Now let's go to the emo opera version.
Long days fade, work's done at last. Tech talk craze, weeks gone so fast. Jordan and Will, here to ignite. Whoa, flow, thrill in the Friday night. Tune in close. Tech talk true. Deep dive now.
All right, one more. Wait, gotta get the banger in there. All right, last one. This is for you, Will.
Yes, I love it already.
It's funny on the road. Jordan Will in control. What flows? Get the mic. Tech talk all night.
Ooh, look at that triple intro. What'd you think?
Bringing the heat. That's right.
Yeah, that was pretty good. I got a lot more of that, but
Does it?
but
Do you put in the type of music you want to hear, or is it like a drop
yeah.
down? They've trained
No,
a
no,
number
you can.
of types.
You just say whatever you want. So like, you can literally just make up genres. So I did like
That's amazing.
emo opera, which I don't know if it's like a real genre. You could do like literally whatever you want. There's no
It's a
drop
well-known
down. It's
genre.
just it is now.
Super
After
cool.
this,
Super cool.
everyone's going to be picking up on it. I do have one more song before we start, and this is where I don't think we're going to be getting in a Friday flow for the next 2 weeks after this because will be getting married, and so I've made you a British rap song.
Thank you.
Big Will and Christina, London town wedding. Gates open wide, hearts no dreading. 2 weeks to vows, love steady setting. Jordan's proud, no doubt, joy be spreading. Rings on the fingers shine, bling through the fog. Christina's the queen, Will's a top dog. West End lights where the revelers trod. Bustling streets, rhythm through the smog. Cheers to the love blood soaring high, no tether. Christina, Will, two hearts linked together. Jordan smiling through any kind of weather. London bells chime, memories forever.
It's just so
I
good.
love it.
It's
Thank
so
you so
good.
much.
It's so good.
Oh wow.
So
Will's the top dog.
yeah,
Christina's a
Will is a
queen.
top dog. Will's a top dog,
And
and
also it
Jordan's
brought the
so
weather
happy.
up. It brought up the
Yeah,
weather a few times, so it's
it just
perfect.
knows. It's great. So most people at Woflow know how obsessed I am with AI everything, but AI music Suno is what I'm using. Came out a couple weeks ago with their 3.5 version, which is just incredible. I mean, it is so good, as you can tell by those songs. So I'm just making songs about everything. If someone texts me a question, I respond with a song now. I don't even actually want to give them like a text back. It's got to be song. But anyway, it's awesome. About a year ago, there was some experiments with AI music, and it was terrible. We had a few. I should have pulled them up, but I don't have them handy right now. But the the difference between a year ago and today is just unreal. Like these are real songs, and so today we're going to discuss what is going on with AI music. Like what's the future look like? What do Will and I think about it? And there's a lot of other bits and pieces, a lot of lawsuits, a lot of legal issues that people are trying to tackle, and we're gonna dive in. We're gonna dive into it. I'm gonna kick it off with what is AI music. AI music is very similar to ChatGPT. It's synthesizing just huge repositories of data and being able to, through some wizardry, recent or take that data and package it in new ways on the fly. Just like if you're communicating with ChatGPT, it's just a different modal. So there's a lot of different modalities. Multimodal for ChatGPT. You can have audio, video, text. Now this is like music. It's absolutely insane. But with that comes controversy, obviously. But first, Will, I want to ask you a fun question. What do you think music will look like in 5 years from now? Just music in general. What's your?
Yeah.
You wake up, you listen to music. What's going on? What's music like in 5 years?
Well, it's a good question, and I think we're part of this evolution, and it's going. The cat's out the bag, so it's going to continue, and AI is the new frontier. I don't see it as that different conceptually from previously. Someone would record an album, and you'd press it on a record, and people would buy the record and then listen to the record, and oftentimes the artist will put it in a direction. So if they have 10 tracks, you'll listen through it 1 through 10, and that was a bit of the story that artist is giving you. You then become like the editor when you're like, I want to make my own playlist. And when we went digital, that became a lot easier with MP3s. Shopify, Spotify went above and beyond that with the streaming piece, and then they started collating their own playlists. And actually, I think they've done a super cool job adding in the AI into it, and I think it's been less controversial than the stuff you're talking about. But if you Google right now in your Spotify day list, you'll get a custom-made, really cool sounding name playlist. They also have a DJ in there that's like a AI DJ that spins new tracks for you. So I think they've been on it super early and riding that wave. But I use the day list quite a lot when I'm working. I think it's some great music to work to. So there's ways to incorporate. There's parts of it is like making new music, and part of it is like how do you incorporate AI into existing music as well, and use it for discovery and those kind of things. So I think there's two really interesting avenues. Certainly the creation is going to keep going. I don't know how many of like DJs today are out there making their own samples versus actually starting to generate some of those with AI as well. So I think there's a whole bunch of stuff that we can get into around this, but it's definitely a new frontier that's super exciting.
Yeah, I see it similar, but I think it's more dramatically different in 5 years. I think about how I listen to Spotify. I'll find an artist I like or a song I like, and I know. By the way, I do use the day list, and I think that plays into this well. But if you find an artist you like, a song you like, you can say, go to the playlist of this one song, right? So then it'll just start finding songs that are very similar to this individual song that you're listening to right now, and it's going to bring up new artists you haven't heard, maybe some existing artists, etc. Oftentimes I listen to it, I'm like, oh, that's a great song, and then I'll like it, and then hopefully I can go from there and go to another playlist and so on. I wonder when they're just going to generate a song for me and just slide it in without me knowing, and it is exactly the song I want to hear at that exact moment. Like when it knows a lot about me, knows a lot about what I want. Maybe the song I want doesn't exist yet, but they know what it should sound like. I think that's very doable. A lot of the songs I'm making myself are bangers. I mean, they're so good. It's crazy. Like some of them are already stuck in my head. I make the stupidest songs about me shopping at Costco, like an EDM song about me shopping at Costco, and it's a complete banger, and like I would legit listen to it. So I think it's gonna be there. Another piece I want to bring up around how this will change music is if you are listening to an artist that's not real, and let's say they're able to create similar tracks based on this, like kind of like a fake artist that is creating their own music, but there is no real singer, it's just AI. Are you going to go to their concert? What is their concert going to look like? It's like a legit question. I'm very curious. If you start listening to artists that aren't real, part of music and part of the experience is actually going to experience it live. I know that is, at least for myself, most of my friends and my family. So what are concerts going to look like if music is all becoming more created by AI? I don't have an answer. Maybe
Yeah,
it's
that's
just,
super interesting.
yeah,
I think it's the evolution that's happening all around us. Would actually worry a little bit that of the way it's going, this dystopian version that you're talking about, the broadly accepted consensus with social media migrating to shorter form dopamine hits, TikTok, and the likes, has pretty much been considered that it's bad, especially for preteens and younger people who are still developing, going through their own change, and it's leading to more depression, more anxiousness, and a lot of other pieces that are socially bad. I worry a little bit then if you can just get dopamine hit songs. Is this the next version of TikTok? Now it's no longer waiting for your favorite artist. It's no, give me the immediate rush I need because I'm walking around my daily life. You could GPS link where that person's walking, and it could be like a playlist soundtrack for your life. Remember the Peter Griffin walking around in Family Guy? I don't know if you remember that, but he's got his own soundtrack as he's walking through life. You could absolutely do that now, and it'll be fun. But yeah, are you ascribing this dopamine hit to people that's kind of similar to the TikTok trend and reels and things that's generally not seen as very beneficial for society? So that's definitely one take to think about with this. But yeah, as of right now, it feels like fun. But what does that mean for the future? I don't know.
yeah. That is an interesting point that I hadn't really thought about. I was thinking about it more from the ramifications to artists, right? So like, what does this mean for artists? And today we're talking specifically about the music industry. We're talking about specifically AI music, but this relates to all industries that are being affected by AI, right? TV, research, whatever it may be. And so one thing that has popped up with Suno, which is the app that I'm using to make these songs, is they've not surprisingly been sued. So a huge lawsuit has come out. It's actually by the Record Industry Association of America, Sony, Warner, UMG, a bunch of different labels also all got together, and they're filing a pretty extensive lawsuit on Suno and a few other companies that are engaging in this. So it's the same question that we've had with other industries, right? A lot of AI companies are being sued, and it's all around the training data. So what what is the actual work piece? What is the actual result? Like this song, those songs that I just played for you, what went into making that song, and what is the end result of that song? Is that song actually taken from a specific artist and somebody's
Yeah, and who
actual
should be
work?
paid? Right.
Who should be paid? Or is this work just a new representation, a transformation of that work that's been done by other people, in which case, based on the fair use doctrine, is legal in some degree. So just I did a little research before, and this is kind of a fun episode because there's a lot of like legal issues around it that Will and I have absolutely no idea what we're talking about. So please, if I say something wrong, it's probably because I said it wrong because I don't know it. But I did a little research just so we can be on the same page on a few things. So fair use doctrine, one of the pieces in there is transformative use. So if the new work adds new expression, meaning, or message to the original work, it is most likely considered fair use. So as long as you're not repackaging the exact same thing, but you're using it and transforming it to add new expression, then that technically is legal. But there's just so many different ways you can go. You can think about this. One thing that I wanted to relate it to, but I did a little deep dive, was a long time ago. There was an artist called, well, not a long time ago. When I was younger, Weird Al Yankovic. I'm sure, I don't know if you remember him. He basically made like parody songs. And there was a couple legal battles back and forth, but I remember that was the first time I've ever heard of the like fair use doctrine. It was like when I was in elementary school, and I was like, how is he able to make these songs? And so I kind of did a little quick deep dive. It's not quite the same as what we're talking about here. He went down the parody track. So also with fair use doctrine, if you criticize original work or use it to kind of do a research, or this is kind of how news gets around being able to show different like songs or videos, then technically it's fair use. So he's gotten around it by making a parody of it, like criticizing the original work. So it's a little different. It is transforming the original work, but it's creating, I guess, it's similar, but it's different. Anyway, I kind of wanted to bring that up because it was one interesting point that I wanted to deep dive into. But anyway, we'd love to get your take on
Yeah.
this, Will. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I think the copyright laws and IP laws that exist probably need an update for the AI generation, and it's ultimately going to get litigated, and so for good or for bad, it's going to happen. Let's see where it lands. I'm sure different countries are going to have different versions of it. Things like AI, it's not country bound, so who knows how it's going to go. It's going to be a big mess. The one thing that's will be sure is that lawyers are going to make a ton of money during this time. So if there's any public legal stocks that we could buy that will be defending and attacking on this, we should get behind that. I will say that the thing that I find interesting when it comes to music specifically, and also probably to like image generation, which also we've covered on our pod in the past, is there's some things that models are doing around learning from existing works, ultimately the training data, that is quite akin to actually the musician or the artist that's doing it as well. So one argument will be, well, your training data set is inclusive of all of this music. That's why Sony's suing this company, right? You're using our artists and you're using that then to create emo, jazz, or whatever else it might be. But the counter argument would be, well, how do musicians learn? They definitely don't make up music on their own and compose and then put it out there. They're learning from existing works. They're identifying patterns. They're practicing and refining their skills. And you speak to any musician, they'll tell you who they admire and who they look up to and who they've learned from in the past, right? And there's a common theme within a musician where people will say, well, I really admire and learned a lot from Michael Jackson, right? Should they be paying Michael Jackson, or bad example, but should they be paying some sort of fees because they've been influenced? It's a really hard argument. We don't do that today, and so arguably, why should we do it in the AI world? I think is the interesting counter argument to this. But I will say IP law doesn't seem like it's currently set up for the mass training that we're doing, and it will be litigated one way or another, and it will take years, and it will take billions of dollars, and lawyers are gonna get rich.
So we should pivot, just become lawyers. The AI era, just lawyers make all the money. No, I totally agree. I think that's a great way to put it. A few other examples that are right on the point there are that are ongoing for like TV and personality work. Like Sarah Silverman is an example. She sued, I believe, OpenAI or Google for her likeness, right? So you can ask to make a show in the style of Sarah Silverman, and so this is something that is like directly her style. Like she has honed this style, and now anyone can profit off it. Very, very similar. Another thing that is just recently announced is Figma is being sued by Apple, and so this is not TV, this is not music, this is design. So I mean, literally every industry is going through this. So Figma is coming out with their own system, their own AI, to allow you to basically say, like, make me a mobile friendly weather app. I think that was kind of their core example, and it looked exactly like the Apple weather app. And so these are things that are obviously trained on millions and millions of design styles, some of which may or may not have been directly from Apple, or just people that are making designs that are very similar to Apple.
Yeah,
So
I think
this
that
is
one's interesting because that points a little bit to just the monopoly that there is in phones and iOS. If their training data for weather apps is probably 90% iOS or Android, right? There's very few other changes. I'd say that it's a little different with music. You can specifically train to sound like something. We saw that Drake track get dropped, which was awesome, and truly like him. It's clearly a copy. But when we're talking about larger models, which trains on all of the world's music, it's a little different again. So I think there's definitely nuance here. I think the other one we saw that was about a month ago, which I thought I could bring up, was OpenAI's launch for their voice app. The voice of it which is called Sky, sounded remarkably similar to Scarlett Johansson's character in the dystopian movie Her. So that was super interesting. They apologized, they took it down. It turns out they did reach out to her about using her voice and didn't, and ended up paying a voice actor. So there's
allegedly paid a voice actress. Yeah.
So we don't know where it's going to go, but we do know it's going to be paved with legal fees for sure.
Yeah, interesting, awesome. Well, that was again one of my topics I've been thinking about for a really long time. You will obviously hear many more bangers from me over the course of the next, probably forever. I'm just going to always respond with bangers. So be prepared.
I hope there's an
that.
outro to this episode as well.
I feel like I should have waited to play one of those songs because I don't have one, but I'll just replay. I'll replay one of them. Which one do you want? Actually, before we potentially end, and again, the new style for Friday Flow is we literally hop on. I click record. We haven't talked about anything prior to this call. We had a few other topics. Well, do we want to go into any of those other topics before we end?
Yeah. Okay. So, thank you. Shout out to Nadav, who put in a couple of interesting questions, more on the business side. And so I'm happy for us to jump into a little bit of that if you want. To get some takes, because I think this is also a good place where people can hear from the two of us and our current thinking, which obviously always changes week to week. But these were some really interesting questions that Nadav had, and he dropped into our AMA. So appreciate you filling out the form, and we're happy to jump through those. So the first one I thought was really interesting, and it ties it back to the vision strategy of the business. So how do we think about the North Star? Does it factor into our day-to-day, week to week, month to month, etc.? And how often do we then adjust and reflect on it as we relate to the current direction of the business? So I think it's a super interesting kind of critical question that's super fair. And I know we don't cover it that often. So I thought we'd just quickly give high-level thoughts on this, and obviously Jordan can chime in as well. Our business, and really what we're trying to do, is build the building blocks, the infrastructure for physical store commerce. So as physical stores, brick and mortar, restaurants, retail stores come online, they're getting closer and closer to e-com, and much more brands and merchants need an omni-channel experience, both in-store and online. And so we're really thinking of ourselves as that glue that pulls us all together, the rails that these stores can operate with. There's obviously many steps to get there. We're not there yet. We primarily still work in the onboarding function for platforms. But as we go through this, it's natural that we need to think about our strategy of direct to merchant, direct to brand, point of sale integration, which we've already kicked off, right, with Sync. So if we just kept doing what we do and we don't think about this North Star, then obviously we'll be very focused on onboarding, and that's not quite right. So it's going to take us forever if we just do that. We do need to force some of these things into existence. And so I'd say the big one that we're focused on right now is Sync, right? So it's how do we get Sync live? A number of people have been working on this for a while. The other big side of this that we're still thinking through and working on is what we think of as our canonical item database. So how should these items be represented, and what is the correct way if the data is not commerce ready online, because a lot of point of sales are not. This is exactly part of that. So like, what is the infrastructure between what someone might be selling in their physical store, like in an inventory management system, to what they actually need to be selling online. Great idea there, great use case for kind of the canonical item database. So there's a lot of things that we still do. I'd say on a quarter by quarter basis, you'll see that these are like the big themes that we normally hit on with our OKRs as a business. So we're referring back to our broader plan, certainly every year as we think of our annual plan, but then every quarter we'll be refining, okay, we've probably under-indexed on this part of the strategy. We focus a lot on link for restaurants in Q2, so let's move a bit more of our focus over to sync and maybe canonical item database into Q3 as we think about bridging that gap as well and that support. So I'd say that's like a big way of how we try to tie in to make sure we're heading on the right path every quarter. And then obviously, as we think about resource on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis, this is part of how that plays in. Does that make sense to you, Jordan? Would you add anything
100%.
there?
Yeah, 100%. Nothing to really add, but I like to pull it all together, think about the North Star has been the exact same from the beginning. It's literally that diagram, the web of merchant, Woflow, third parties, or any distribution of that data, right? And so we've had the exact same diagram for every pitch and every meeting we go into. Like that is Woflow, and so that is the North Star. Oftentimes, we take on products that don't seem to be directly correlated to that diagram. For Will and I, it could be strategic to be able to infiltrate or get closer to a customer to be able to then make sure that it ties back into that diagram. Sometimes we go in a direction that actually doesn't correlate well to that diagram. And so on a quarter by quarter basis, sometimes we say, actually, this is going a direction we don't want to go, or it's not actually going closer to our North Star. And so that is our North Star. And oftentimes we kind of navigate not necessarily directly towards it, but we have to go in a few other branch directions to be able to come back to it. And sometimes we're going in the wrong direction. That's when we have to cut things. And it's something that we kind of do a little high level thinking and come back to the table on that. So perfect. Yeah. Excellent. I think that'll do it for this Friday Flow. I hope this was lovely. Will, I'm going to let you pick one of those 4 bangers that I had earlier to send us home. Or I did have the movie from last time, but I don't know where it went. So no, let's just do a banger. Give me a banger. Which one?
Okay. You can send me My Wedding One, so I'll just kick us off with the metal cover.
That's what I thought. I thought you'd go with that one. All right. For Will and Jordan, this has been the Friday Flow. Signing out. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
It's funny on the road. Jordan will in control. Woflows get the mic. TikTok all night.
All right. And out.